Welcome to You've Got This with Sarah Hamaker, a podcast to encourage and equip moms along their parenting journey. Join Sarah each week as she interviews dads and moms like you and discusses the joys, challenges, and rewards of raising kids.
Hi, and welcome to this week's You've Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hamaker, and I'm glad you joined me. Today I have Hope Oriabure Hunter. She is a sales. She has had a career as a salesperson for many years. She also has Black-Tie Babysitting. She's the founder and CEO of the special occasion on-site childcare service. So she's an entrepreneur, she's a mom, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. So thank you for joining me, Hope.
Thank you for having me.
So when you're a mom and you're an entrepreneur, and I love the term mompreneur. I think that just sounds so cute, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it actually makes us seem like really kind of special. You know, we're not just a regular entrepreneur. We're a mompreneur. I just have visions of us running around in capes. We can take, we are super women. In a way we are, but in a way it's a balancing act, especially when you're founding your own business, whether it's a one-woman show or whether you're intending to, have employees. It can be a hard balance to strike between, being a mom and being an entrepreneur. How do you balance that?
Well, I think the number one thing is that there's really not a balance. It never truly ever balances its way out. And I tell people all the time, some days I'm an incredible entrepreneur, an incredible business owner, and a terrible mom. Sometimes I'm a great mom and a terrible business owner. And that's just because it doesn't balance out. And one of my favorite quotes says that we expect women to work like they don't have children and to raise children as if they don't work. And that in itself
I love that.
Shows the complexity and how difficult it is to take on both roles, because to be a mom is a full-time job and to be a business owner is a full-time job, especially if you find yourself as a solo entrepreneur, where you do everything from start to finish.
Yeah, and I think that when we were talking before we had the podcast about how that can make us feel a little bit like a failure as a mom, right? Like we're not really a mom if we're working, whether it's for ourselves or for someone else. Absolutely.
I mean, I call it this. It's kind of like the PTA mom syndrome. I'm just like, why can't I be her? Why can't I do the bake sale? Why can't I come up to the school and help teachers and, be the homeroom mom and help with the Christmas parties? And I just had to get to the point where I just had to tell myself, Hope, you can't do this. And I always use the analogy of dress. That dress fits her, but that dress is not for me. It doesn't fit me. So there's no point in me trying to fit into it and not feeling comfortable and not looking right and it just not working. And so what I try to do is adapt. Am I the homeroom mom? No, but I have reasonably nice handwriting, so I always volunteer to print out certificates, handprint certificates for the kids, things I can do in my schedule at night where I don't have to be up at the school, or it can use my expertise. I have an 18-year career in new business development and sales, like you mentioned. So I will fundraise. I will get corporate sponsors to pay for things and do things. I'll make those calls. I'll leverage my my network. And that is the way I figured out to support my children at school and to support the school's goals. I couldn't be that mom that, bakes cookies. I just couldn't. I couldn't be at the PTA meetings at night because of the business that I'm in. I do a lot of networking. Event networking usually happens at night.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I think too, it's part of the reason that we feel that we fail. And I frankly, I don't know any mom who's ever lived who didn't feel at some moment that she's a parenting failure. I mean, I don't think dads really struggle with this as much as we do. And I think part of it is that, like, I loved your analogy about the dress fitting her and not you, and vice versa, because we do that comparison, don't we? We look at the woman who's able to volunteer, 30 hours a week at the school, or run the book fair, or, run the PTA, and is always there at every single tiny milestone in her child's life. And
Right.
and we do compare ourselves to them.
Yeah, it's it's unfortunate. A lot of it, I think, is driven by society telling us that they tell us this is the ideal, and this is what you should hope to be and strive to be, when it's just not realistic. One, for the day and time we live in. Like I think I shared with you at the beginning of the show, I was a single parent for 17 years. So, that wasn't the ideal. I didn't have a father at home that could help me do things and balance and manage and all. I just had to do everything. And so once I let go of that, what that ideal was, and just accepted the realities for where I was and what my family was, then things got a lot better. I tell everybody, I try not to use children movies in adult conversation, but the analogies are so great.
Go ahead. We've probably all seen it anyway.
Exactly. But, Lilo and Stitch, the first time I saw that movie with my kids, I just bawled, because it was just so perfect to me how he said that, we might be small and we might be broken, but we're a family. And that was their reality. And they were able to love each other and deal with those challenges. And I think that when you feel this sense of failure, one of the things I tell people, the first thing you have to do is to permission yourself. Because to be a mom or a dad and to have kids and live life and do everything everyone's telling you should be doing with your kids, for your kids, everything you have to do, whether you're a business owner or you have a job, or even if you work inside of the home, because even a stay-at-home mom has a lot of challenges and a lot of things that they're expected to do. I have a friend that has 6 children. She just had her 6th child, and she homeschools all her kids. I can imagine doing that. But the thing I tell people is you have to permission yourself. You cannot beat yourself up continuously like, oh, my gosh, this thing happened. I should have been ahead of this. I can't. Okay, it happened.
Right.
What's next? It happened. What's next? Don't beat yourself up over it. And the reality is that you just can't do everything all the time the way you think or the way you're told it should be done. It's just impossible.
It is. And I think part of the key is to find out, what we can do, and do that. Focus on the positive as opposed to the negative, right? Instead of thinking about all those classroom parties you couldn't go to, you focused on, well, I can write all the certificates for the end of the year event, for example. And I think it's important to, really play to our strengths that way, and to help our kids see that we're not just, showing up because we feel it's expected. We're showing up because we are interested, or we have a talent that can contribute to this event, or volunteer opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. And I think we all too often just focus on all the things we can't do, as opposed to focusing on, well, how could we help? How could we make our child feel that we care about their, involvement in school?
Yeah. Well, I think too is that you can't take for granted if you are able to give birth to this child, raise this child to the point that now they're ready to go to school, and you feed them every day, you clothe them every day, you make sure they're clean and they are ready and focused and ready to go to school. That is a feat in itself. There are parents who struggle to even do that, whether that's socioeconomical challenges, whether the parent has mental health challenges, which is really big right now, that is just now getting awareness. There are people who can't even do that for their children. So I think that we need to be able to you don't have to pat yourself on the back, but you need to understand that you have achieved something. Maybe I couldn't go to my son's choir performance because it was 11 o'clock in the morning, and I don't understand that.
Right.
And who they expected to be there. But I know that my child was at school every day. He didn't miss any of the class days that they had to work on the song, that he was clean and presentable and ready to go and on time to school that day.
Right. And also, the fact of the matter is we can't be there for every single sporting event, every single game for our kids, especially when we have more than one child. I mean, it really is, and we try though. Sometimes we feel like we need to try, and we need to realize that that's not always healthy either for our kids to see us constantly always doing everything. If you have more than one kid in a sport, I don't know how you would make it to all their games and practices. And
it's tough. And I think when you're honest with your kids and you help them understand the why, and you just don't say no or we can't do this, but help them understand the why, then they get it. My kids, we just started doing extracurricular in my family because when I was a single mom, I couldn't get everybody everywhere. I just literally could not get people to practices and stuff, so I didn't commit to doing those things. But now that I am remarried, we have 2 kids that are in sports, but I needed that help. And the other thing, too, is that parent fails a lot of times is because we fail to ask for help.
Yes, yeah.
And what you said, that scenario of what do you do with multiple kids in sports, even having multiple kids in school can be a challenge, because I know here where I live, Meet the Teacher night is all on the same night. I would be like, oh my goodness, I have kids at different schools, different grades. And you know what I did? I enlisted my family's help. I got my little sister, my younger sister who lives here in town with me, and I would make a decision. I would go to the child that I feel like had the most challenges or that personality-wise was hot or cold about their teacher, so I could see what was going on, and I picked those. The kids that are having a great school year, loving their teacher, loving their class, have good grades, you can go to those. Just show that they have an adult that's responsible for them, that's showing up. That's just what we had to do to make this thing work, and it worked fine. I just think that we have to ask for help. That's why sometimes we fail. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. That, to me, that shows how much more you care, that you put yourself aside, that you either had to humble yourself or put your own pride aside and say, look, I can't do this, and I can't do it by myself. Can you help?
Right. And I find that, teachers are willing to work with you if you need a different time, to meet with them. It's mostly just asking in a way that's not like, you have to do this because my time is more important than your time. It's that humble kind of, we're really trying to all get to all the teachers. We had that when we had our 4 kids in elementary school. They scheduled the parent-teacher conferences on the same day, and we were allowed to kind of pick the times with the teachers. And we just kind of begged one of the teachers. We're like, look, any chance you can meet us earlier than the time scheduled? Because, my husband was taking time off work so he could come with me. And I said, and otherwise, it was going to be like hours before we could get, the next available appointment. And she's graciously, met with us, like at 7:30 instead of like at, 8 o'clock. So we could work that out. But just asking, we were like, look, we're trying, can you help us out? And even asking friends to help, neighbors to help with, pick up, drop off, because we're all in this together. My oldest daughter is in high school, but both my daughters are in high school, and I often pick her up and one of her friends down the street when they do some after school activities, because the other girl's parents, both her parents work outside the home, and it's something I can do. I don't mind doing it. It helps them out. And, and I get to spend some time listening to my daughter and her friend talk in the car, which is, always awesome.
Yes.
Kind of thing. So I think that I love your idea of just like reminding ourselves that often we feel like a failure when we could have success whatever that looks like, if we just, reach out a hand to someone else, because chances are they want to help and they probably are going to need help too.
Absolutely. Because I tell everybody all the time, and especially before I got married, and everybody would say, oh my gosh, Hope, you run this business. And I still have a full-time job as well. And you have a full-time job and you have these 4 kids all by yourself. Oh, poor Hope, your plate is so full. That's what people would say to me. And I got to the point where I didn't snap back, but I just decided to talk back to it. And I said, well, the best thing about having a full plate is you never have to go back for seconds. And when this life is over, I would have done everything I wanted to do or even wanted to try to do. And the other lesson in that is that I always tell people is that your plate is as equally full as mine. Your sides are just different. And
right.
I think when we understand that, then that levels everything out. Just like I would never take for granted my friend that's a stay-at-home mom with those 6 kids and school teaching them, homeschooling them versus me being outside of the home working and managing my kids. We talk all the time. We have a lot of the same challenges and having several children, because at 4 you're considered to have a lot of kids.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so I didn't realize 4 was a lot of kids. I'm African, so I thought a lot of kids was like 14. That's the type of stuff that I was used to seeing. But evidently 4 is a lot to a lot of people these days. So
Hope, we could go in a whole nother conversation if we had time about that, because I have 4 kids of my own, and I often, especially when they're young, got the you must be tired kind of a comment. And I'm like, what, do I look like it? I'm doing fine.
Oh, yeah.
I said, I didn't think this was that big a deal. I know some people who have 6 and 8 kids. What?
Yeah, and the expectation is so low, like you're going to fall apart at 80. Then I remember one time I was at some professional networking thing, and I was talking to a gentleman who was in our Congress here in the state of Texas. And I was saying something, and I was talking to him about an issue affecting children. I said, as a mother of 4, I'm very passionate about this issue. What can you tell me about your stance on it? He was like, wow, I would never thought you had 4 kids. You look really put together. And I was looking like, what? I didn't know that I would not be put together because I had 4 children. I didn't think you lost a notch.
Yeah. Apparently it's true, because you are not the only one with 4 kids who gets those kind of comments, But anyway, that's a little off topic, but it is kind of funny to think that, this idea that if we have, 4 or more kids, 3 or more kids, I don't know what the threshold is these days, that there is too much for us to handle, that we're not able to function. And the truth of the matter is that, most of us get along pretty fine. And a lot of the times it's because we're not afraid to ask for help. Because we help our kids learn how to, help each other. I remember I had my oldest reading to my younger,
absolutely,
a lot as kind of a help to me while I cooked dinner. Mm-hmm. She got to practice her reading, which she had to do for school, and her little brothers got read to. It was a win-win on my book.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that we can do, whether we're mompreneurs, whether we work, whether we stay home, whether we homeschool, we're all juggling a lot of balls. And I think when we really look at it, that we're all in this together. Yes, our lives look a little different because we're all different and we have different numbers of kids, different situations, but we're all, trying to do the best we can. I think we can have better, honest conversations when we focus on that.
Right. And I think the thing too, that we're talking about, having these fails and stuff like that, and this is something I tell people too a lot, is to have an epic fail, you have to have an epic try. And that epic try, it's not always bad to try and fail. Sometimes the lesson is learned in that failure.
Yes.
Like, what could I have done different? And one thing I do too is that I know this sounds crazy, but I talk to myself.
Oh.
And sometimes I tell people, oh, I'm organizing my thoughts out loud.
Yeah.
For people who don't get but sometimes you really have to talk to yourself, and you have to talk to yourself out loud because you have to coach yourself through it so you can get past it. Just like, if your kid comes to you very upset about something, what do? You talk to them. You coach them through it. Like, why are you so upset? Oh, that happened. Okay, well, what do you think you could have done differently? And the thing is, that works because you're helping them arrive at that peace and that understanding of, okay, this didn't work out the way I wanted, but this is what I do next. And when we become adults, we lose that coaching. There's not really people we run to that will start talking to us because, one, we don't want to tell people what's happened. We don't want to be that vulnerable. And then sometimes we're not ready to hear their advice. So because of those two things, I found that a better way for me to deal with it was just to start talking out loud to myself. When something goes wrong, I'm telling you, this happened today. Some craziness at the bank, and my business account, personal accounts got messed up, and something went through one account, and I was really frustrated. And I started my day like this. And I told myself, I said, Hope, this is an unfortunate situation that's happened to you right now. But the reality is it's not going to kill you. It's not going to break the bank. The transaction's already gone through the wrong account. You're okay. I know you're disappointed, poor customer service, all that stuff. But okay, it's okay. So let's move on to the rest of our day. And it messed me up till about 11 o'clock. I was frustrated from about 9 to 11. And then when I finally let it go, the rest of my day moved forward. And I ended up having a great rest of the day. But had I not just stopped, talked to myself, coached myself through it, it probably would have just lingered there. Because when you don't talk out loud, I think, or really tell yourself this stuff, the only voices you hear are the other ones.
Right.
I would have only heard those voices like, Hope, oh my gosh, how did this happen? You should have checked when you signed up for this to make sure that the account was correct. You had plenty of time to check it. Now you've got this extra. I didn't hear those voices because I heard myself saying it's okay. Yes, it did happen. It's disappointing, but let's move forward. Let's get through the rest of our day.
I love that. And that's a great positive note to end our podcast today, because when we have those self-conversations, whether we say it out loud or we talk very sternly in our heads, now I talk to myself too, Hope, so you're not the only one. That's just between us, right?
And the listeners.
And the listeners. Shh, don't tell anyone. I think it's important for us to replace those loops with those positives in our life. So that's a great way to end our show today. So thank you so much for joining me today, Hope.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You have been listening to You've Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hammaker, and I've had my guest today as Hope Oriabure Hunter. She is an entrepreneur. She's a career sales professional. She's the founder and CEO of Black-Tie Babysitting, Inc., a special occasion on-site childcare service, which sounds like a fabulous idea. And we've been talking about bouncing back from parenting fails. So I'm glad you joined me, and I hope to be here next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast of You've Got This with Sarah Hammaker. Sign up to receive notification of new podcasts and listen to previous editions at sarahhammaker.com. Until next time, remember, parenting might be hard sometimes, but don't worry, you've got this.